Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's second Friday food, wine, and travel show with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We love it because every second Friday we get to chat with travel writers and photographers and authors about their craft, about their travels, and their adventures. We love it. So check out ifwtwa.org. And if you follow them on social media, just hashtag IFWTWA. We say IFTWA. You will be able to follow these stories of writers around the world. I mean, it's cool, especially on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And today we're excited because we're going to Boston. We're shipping off to Boston to find our wooden leg. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to. I know. I had to do it.
How appropriate.
I had to. It's appropriate. We have longtime travel journalist and author Charlene Peters joining us. She's been to over 41 countries. She's published thousands of lifestyle stories. She's also the author of Travel Makes Me Hungry. We agree on that.
Yes.
And go to her website, Spavalous, SPAVALOUS, because she likes wellness, she likes wine, she likes travel, and apparently food too. So welcome, Charlene. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Cool. It's great. This is fun. So now you live in Massachusetts, right?
I do. I grew up in
close to Boston?
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I'm north of Boston. It's about a 25-minute drive to the airport from here. I live in Swampscott, Massachusetts. I moved back here.
She has a swamp.
July.
She has a swamp.
Swampy?
Swamp?
Swampscott.
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 See, we can't pronounce anything over there.
It's a beachside town. I'm actually looking at the ocean from here.
Sweet.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's very cool. I spent 18 years living in Marblehead, the neighboring town. And this is my first time. I've lived here since July, my first time living in Swampscott. But I've lived all over the North Shore my whole life. And in 2014, I left. I was working in the newspaper industry as an arts editor in this town and Marblehead, and actually all of the North Shore in Boston, but mainly here. And I left to move to Paris for a year and get my graduate degree. And then I received a job offer from a place in the Napa Valley as a destination marketing director. So I moved to California for 6 years. And in January of 2021, with so many variables relating to the pandemic, I ended up taking a 6-month road trip as a travel writer's road trip, me and my senior little dog, and we went from California to Swampscott.
Cool.
We know how those road trips work. I mean, we travel full time. We're complete digital nomads, and we document parks, public lands. And your story, by the way, about Boston is in our upcoming issue of Parks and Travel magazine, the summer fall issue. So everybody watch out for that. You can see it on nationalparktraveling.com. So we do that. It's now travel's a little bit like everybody. We want to promote travel, but it's my road. You're all back. And you've forgotten how to drive. No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying. But no, I'm kidding. No, it's only certain place. But it's amazing doing that journey and seeing the difference of our country. We just literally arrived in Lubbock, Texas today, where we're recording. But
that was one of my stops.
See, we're in Lubbock.
Yeah,
we're in
the Cotton Court Club. Did you go there?
No, not yet. We did go to see Buddy Holly's museum. You know, Buddy Holly, he's the dude here. But we drove from Washington State to here, like straight, and you just see we went from lush mountains and snow to like snow to now you're in the desert. It's like, how did that happen in 30 hours? You know what I mean? Took a little longer than that, but it's amazing to do that. And for you to go from California to Boston, basically,
that's huge.
That's diverse, right?
I've never done anything like that. I don't even like driving on long road trips, but
Right.
I mean, it was during the pandemic and I left before vaccinations and I arrived with a vaccination and
Wow.
the world had pretty much shut down, during most of the trip. So when I went
Yes.
to Lubbock, I couldn't go to that museum. I had my food takeout in my room. So
Oh, see, yeah.
a lot of my road trip was like that. And that's why I ended up staying in Florida for 3.5 months over the winter before I continued. And then things were getting a little better. I was vaccinated and but I mean, it's been going in these waves, this whole virus, and
It's up and down. It's so weird, man. But I think travel's there, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's
no,
it's going to go ebb and it's going to be it's by individual. Like, do you have it or not? If you have it, stay home. Try. Some places we still mask up. I mean, because we travel full time, and we
It's
don't want people to get it from us. We don't want it. Like, we're vaccinated and everything too. But it's different for everybody, and I think you have to do whatever's best that you can.
well,
who you are.
the vaccinations are not 100%, so it makes sense to do whatever you can to keep from getting ill.
I was
Yeah.
just
Makes
on a
sense.
media trip and a couple weeks ago, not even, and one of the PR reps that was there was totally sick the whole time. And there was one
Oh.
day she stayed away from us, but most of the time she was seated right next to me 2
Ah.
Thursdays ago eating lunch, and she said she kept testing negative, and then as soon as we got back home, she sent out an email to everybody that she tested positive. And I was
Yikes.
sure I was doomed, right? It's so contagious. But I've had 4 vaccines and they work because I would have caught it. There's no doubt. I can't even believe I didn't catch a cold. And but I didn't catch anything. So I truly believe in the boosters. I wasn't so sure until this happened.
Wow. And that's freaky. It's freaky because it's not like people aren't dying, so it's
Right.
and the more protected you are, the better you have to, like, you're here. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. Welcome
Yes.
to the show. You're here, you made it. Like, really. This is great. So let's talk about Boston. Nancy and I, we
Yes.
travel full time. We do parks, public lands. Boston is definitely on our list. And, all I have to say is all you Massachusetts,
Bostonians.
Bostonians,
That
all of
sounds
you,
good.
everyone that I've met that is anywhere in that vicinity, know how to have a good time and don't mess with you. Don't, like, it's the same. You know how to have a good time, put things square, like, boom, this is how it is. And you know how to have a good time, but don't mess with you. That's it's cool. I love
Seems
it.
to be the consensus of what people think a Bostonian is. I don't know that I fall into that category so much, but I'm not rough and tough, and it
No,
just
but you have a
depends where
good time. You're
from.
fun. Everybody I know from your side of the planet is fun.
But
Like,
think
I
it's-
dig it. I'm
it's-
like, oh, cool. She's in yeah, let's have some fun. Come on the show. To me.
Well,
I don't think it's about being rough and tough. I think it's more about being just straight up.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that's a good thing in life.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yes.
who wants to waste time on, I have to watch my
Don't
language.
say that word. Don't say it. I know exactly what you're going to say. Don't do it.
I behaved. But like, who wants to waste time? Go have a good time. Go to Boston. Apparently, there's more than baked beans, and I didn't know it was baked beans and cod. I knew it was Boston baked beans, but I didn't know it was Boston baked beans and cod as the thing. But
Yes, so
this is pretty
codfish is
impressive.
big here. Haddock and
Mm.
codfish is really big here. I missed haddock more than anything when I lived in California for 6 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I would sometimes even order it. And I would order New England clam chowder to shipped frozen to me in California. That's how much
Wow.
I missed it.
So
Wow.
California couldn't, yeah, because it's regional. Yeah, that's a whole different deal.
And a different kind of clam chowder. And
Different clams.
yes, well, and
Mm.
different way of making
Sauce. Yeah.
Mm.
with the shells, and it was different. But Boston has a lot of meaning to me, as now that that I went on this road trip. when I arrived in Boston, I could not have been happier. And that was my last leg of this 6-month journey. And I spent a week in Boston exploring and reconnecting with the area before I moved to Swampscott.
Oh, wow. And so is that kind of like, did you know you were going to move to Swampscott, or is that just?
I did, but the timing had to be, I had to wait to move in. So I was kind of taking my time along the
Oh,
way.
I see.
But I was really thrilled to be able to spend a week, and I stayed at 3 different properties, and one of them was the new Four Seasons One Dalton. And
Yeah.
and that was really, really cool because they had in the lobby right behind the check-in desk, they had this huge mural that it was. Did you see the mural?
The molasses mural. Everyone will see in the article in the photo.
Oh, good.
The molasses mural, because Nancy and I
love that.
learned about the Great Molasses Flood on Drunk History. And
Yes,
we were like, we
Drunken
have to go to
History.
Boston because of the molasses
People
flood.
died. I mean,
I
they
know.
were in the factory. They were in the factory,
Lisa.
but yeah, it's such a crazy thing, right?
It's
That you could die from
weird.
molasses.
Serious.
But it's like being tarred and feathered, right? It's like sticky stuff and it
I
floats
can't imagine it.
And
I
drowning
mean,
is painful. Apparently drowning is the worst pain, but like molasses drowning, that's not
you would
cool.
think
That's
that you could get out of molasses. I mean,
no, that heavy. It's heavy.
They were in the factory when it happened, and it flooded. I mean, people in rainstorms drive into huge puddles and drown. So
yeah.
it happens.
Well, yeah, we lived in Tucson, and they would say, "Don't drown, turn around." And then you watch on the news, who did it? You did it. Did you
Well,
walk
and
out?
it says don't do it, and then
Don't
people
do
do
it.
and
You
you're
can't.
like,
You can't. Yeah, you can't get out of your car. I mean, the water will close you in. It's not cool, but people do it, and you know better.
they
but
just
you do
don't
it.
believe it.
You can't defy nature. But molasses, this whole thick,
That's crazy.
that's a swamp in itself.
I know, and within that mural are all the iconic Bostonian items, like the Sitco sign and all these other things that
baked beans,
the baked beans, yeah,
the Capitol building.
Yeah, so you'll have to so you'll have to really, when the article runs, just like really look at that picture, because it's almost like where's Waldo kind of thing, like you're looking at all these different landmarks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. So you stayed there, and then you also went to the Westin, right? Is that the right name?
I went to is it the W Hotel?
The W. Why did I? Oh, you know what? I've got that other guy's name on my head here. But yeah, the W Hotel, because that's where Aerosmith was, right?
So Aerosmith would stay at this room that I stayed in. It was a huge room. It was called their Wow Suite. And when I arrived, it was all black lacquer and really, really rock musician designed. And it was just everything was electronic, so the shades and the lights and everything was just on this little plate where you press a button, and they had a beautiful big bathroom with a soaking tub. Everything overlooked the city, and that was amazing. And at the time I went, they were having a Veuve Clicquot garden experience. So that was when I met up with my sister for the first time, and she came to meet me and actually stayed overnight. Yeah, she did. And we did the whole Veuve Clicquot experience and had lobster rolls and Veuve Clicquot, which is, the staple best champagne around here. And it was a really fun night. And people were, even though, things were still closed off somewhat, because this was a year ago. It was still pretty crowded there. I think the Bostonians, for the most part, didn't care. And yeah, so I stayed there a few nights, and I stayed on Charles Street, which is.
I want to go back to the hotel. The W room. It's the Whitney. I meant.
Oh, the Whitney is a different hotel.
It's a Whitney. Oh. Okay, that's where I got messed up. Yeah, that's where I got messed up with the W. I was like the Whitney, and I said the Westin. So everybody, it's my fault because we can't see notes while we're doing this very well. So anyway, there's the Whitney is different.
Yes, the Whitney Hotel is on Charles Street.
Yeah.
So it's in Cambridge. And that was, I think that was my first stop. And it was a small boutique hotel, and it was really interesting because it was formerly a housing building for
Yeah.
nurses.
Oh,
And so, yeah, and now it's this amazing hotel property, and right outside is, you know, Charles Street, and it's got like this restaurant road and all these little shops. It's one of it's all in that Beacon Hill area, and really really a nice hotel. And you can, you know, you can walk to Starrow Drive and the Charles River, which is very popular.
That's really cool that you have these hotels, and when you go to a city like that, you want to kind of park and just explore, you know what I mean? And get on there, and you went to the Freedom Trail. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know a lot of our audience, you know, that's, if you go to Boston, that's the thing to do, because this really tells the story of the founding of America. So like when we think about parks and historic sites, and a lot of our National Park Service, 3/4 of it is actually historic sites, not just the magnificent Yosemites and Yellowstone, which also have history, by the way, but Freedom Trail is a big deal. I mean, you can go to where they threw the tea and said, you know,
yes,
off
the
you go.
Tea Party. Yes, the
Off you
Boston
go.
Tea Party. And when the colonists threw the tea over and they pretended they were Indians, and it was crazy, right?
They pretended to be Mohawks. That's like
Yeah.
crazy.
I know.
You gotta do a hair change there.
You know, blame it on the Indians. Come on.
I know.
I know. They get the bad rap, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's interesting is, you know, coming back to Boston and seeing like the Seaport is all built up now, and it wasn't so built up when I left. It was just starting.
Oh,
There
wow.
are different changes, and then there are the staples. So discovering like the new Four Seasons, that was new, but it all connects with the old. And one of the old is the Freedom Trail, which I've lived here most of my life and I never did it. So I had a friend visiting in September, and she was coming in, and I said, you know what? I'm going to pick you up. She was staying at the Hyatt the first night in Boston, and by the airport. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick you up and we're going to walk the Freedom Trail. and she was like, okay. And I said, I've never done it. I am reconnecting with Boston, and I really just want to do this. So we did. It was very warm and humid. Last summer was really, really hot and humid here. And we walked. It's only 2.5 miles, but and it's a little bit tricky because there's a lot of construction on the streets, and you know, it's sidewalks, and you're crossing through the park, the Boston Commons, and
oh wow, you got to think the Boston Commons, even that is such a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you hear, because we've never been there, but we've heard about all these places, and so you're just like, wow, you get to actually go there. I know. It sounds crazy.
And you know, I went to school at Emerson College, which is right across from the Commons, and that's where I used to go and hang out and study in between classes. And but it is beautiful to walk through. And but yeah, so the Freedom Trail, it's, you know, we started, where was the start? It was by the Commons. I forget exactly where, but so you have to follow. We had to ask a couple times, and because sidewalks were blocked for construction in a certain area.
Okay.
And as we were walking through and trying to get, you end up at the Constitution. So but all these different stops, you can look on your phone, and there is an app that'll talk about the different places and where to stop. And if you want, you can go into the churches, and you can go into all these different landmarks, or you're just walking through. And, you know, we didn't go inside any place, because, you know, it was still last year and it was a little tricky, but we ended up, you know, walking down through, and you're walking to Charlestown. And so you're starting in Boston, you're going through like the North End, and you're ending up like, there's Haymarket and Quincy Market. that's a whole big area that when I was growing up, in my partying days, that was the place to go. And they had chairs and they had all these different places. They had this medieval manor and they had all these places
Cool.
that you could go to. But now it's a little bit different. It's more touristy there.
Mhm.
And it's still, you can walk through Quincy Market and get different foods and shops and souvenirs and Boston baked beans candy and things like that. But most people will go to the North End, which is a really fun place to be. And especially, if you go, they have like a farmer's market area where the Italians are just screaming and they're like
Oh,
trying to
cool.
sell their wares. It's really funny and they swear and
Cool.
Let's go, Nancy. We
I know,
down.
sounds good to me.
that to me is authentic, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I can
Like it.
take from where I live, it's a half a mile to the train, the commuter rail, they call it, and it takes you right to North Station. And then the North End is right there. And so it's called Haymarket, and where they sell all the fruit and veggies. And it's a crazy scene, them trying to get rid of everything. And I've gone there just to get a bunch of produce, just to experience it. But the North End is also an experience because you're going to these old and newer Italian restaurants, pastry shops, and is Mike's or Modern Pastry better, and all these different things are there. I've done like a tour through the North End and tasting all the different foods and the little shops, and it's a great experience to go there. I think it's a must.
It sounds very culturally diverse, and I think because it's like a harbor port city that happens. And I mean, obviously it's a big deal with Boston and its history of this country, but it seems like you could probably get a taste from every country while you're there.
You can. I mean, and people love going to the North End for Italian food, but then you walk out and you're going to the Seaport, and you've got all things seafood and steak. So it's more surf and turf. And then there's some, there's more restaurants popping up. I just went to one of the newest restaurants that just opened called Kestra in the Omni Hotel in the Seaport area. Brand new hotel, brand new restaurant, and it's more Mediterranean. And
wow.
It's absolutely delicious. Highly recommended. It's got an open structure. But yeah, and they have a rooftop pool bar and lounge area now, and that just opened. And yeah, so that restaurant, Kestra, is all Mediterranean, but then there's Rosa Mexicana and in the Seaport, so you can get your Mexican food, and Legal Seafood is a chain around here that's
Legal. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a big name here, and it's where you can get the best clam chowder, in my opinion, and or chowder. It's funny because being in California for 6 years and then coming back to Boston, I laugh at the accent, even though people in California hear my accent, but I hear it a lot more from other people here.
Yeah, I understand it because you kind of gone this way. Now it's coming back, but you have it. It's not going. It's not going. But you talk about in your article what a real New England clam bake is, and Nancy and I are allergic to seafood, so everything you're talking to us.
Yeah.
Well, but we don't need more to eat, honestly. But we'll take it.
Well, that's the first thing I did arriving back was I had to get, with all my friends and family, it was like I was going out to eat a lot and going to get lobster rolls and going to get, fried clam plates and all the haddock I could possibly eat. And, but there is the New England clam bake, and that is just like all the different shellfish that are steamed, and quahogs and everything.
Quahogs. What is a quahog?
That's a quahog.
Like a pig of the sea. I know. I was like, that's how I was reading that. I'm like, She's got piggies in
Okay.
the ocean.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm saying this right, because I think it's a clam as far as I know, right?
Oh,
Yeah, it's a quahog. I was like, I have never heard of that. Well, we don't know anything better,
Oh,
yeah, we
yeah.
don't know about
So-
seafood, so.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
giant clams. That's so they're big clams called I don't eat them.
Oh,
I eat them like that. I'll eat fried clams, like the big bellied fried clams, but to have quahogs, I don't really do that. That's when they slurp it. And
Ew.
yeah, and mussels,
do you do oysters?
Yeah,
Do
like
you eat
oysters.
oysters?
Don't
do
they
oysters, but we don't do oysters in Boston, but there's a lot of oysters, and there's some really good oysters around here. Not here, but they get them from Cape Cod. So
Oh, okay.
in my opinion, Wellfleet has the best oysters
Okay.
in the world. And I've lived in Paris and had the oysters there, and from Normandy, and I've had oysters in Hog Island in California, and I just really love the Wellfleet oysters the best.
Where is that?
Okay.
Well,
Cape
where,
Cod.
where's Cape Cod? Okay, we haven't done that either. We've been close, but not
You gotta
quite
go to
there.
Cape Cod.
We haven't done Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts,
The
New
whole
York.
eastern,
Yeah,
we haven't done
we've
a
been
lot of
as
the east yet.
Maryland is, we'll be in Maryland in a couple weeks. That's as
Yeah.
close.
Okay.
Maryland and Delaware. I was like,
Okay.
Delaware. What did I just say? Mulware.
Delaware?
I've done a story on Baltimore before, and ate a lot of, it was a lot about the crab, right? The blue crab, and I had a soft shell crab for the first time there in a sandwich, and that was interesting with the claws hanging out.
Did you eat the shell?
You
No, it's
do,
soft
but
shell.
it's a
Oh,
soft
You
it is?
eat
shell.
it?
Yeah. Everything has Old Bay seasoning on it.
That's
weird.
it. The
That's like-
bacon. We stayed at a
That's
bed and
like eating
breakfast.
a hoof off of a cow.
No, because it's soft. It's soft.
It is. It's a strange sensation to eat a soft shell crab, I have to admit. But I did it.
Wow. Well, we
Okay.
had the Old Bay seasoning when we were at the Hummingbird Inn in Easton, Maryland. He did bacon
Oh,
and
it's
he
so good.
overnighted with bourbon and Old Bay
It's
seasoning. I mean,
so
thick
good.
slices of bacon in the morning for breakfast. On Sundays,
good.
it's Bellinis, peach
Mm.
Bellinis, one after the other. And after that
With
night before,
bacon.
he gave everybody more than one Bellini because we all needed to. Apparently the front porch was rocking. We all had many cocktails. It was summer, and so he's
That
like,
was
here,
so
here.
much
Oh,
fun.
it wasn't summer. It was Halloween, and he had all the Halloween decor out. Eric, and this
That was
bacon
really
comes
fun.
out, and Nancy about fell to the floor in pure, like she's gonna drool, jaw drop.
It's
Piece
the
of bacon.
best thing I've ever had.
It's like it comes in the glass that you're supposed to have orange juice kind of thing, but here's the big slabs of bacon in your glass, like.
So
and
good.
Honest to God, like Old Bay seasoning is Old Bay seasoning, but with bourbon,
Oh, it's so
candied
good.
candied
With
bacon
brown
with
sugar,
Old Bay.
light brown
Oh my
sugar.
God.
Bay seasoning and bourbon, and he bakes it.
Mhm.
It's
It's yeah.
I want some
So
now.
I think that is
Mm.
maybe
best
better than
thing.
seafood.
Well,
I'm just gonna
Well,
say that
because
for
we
now.
can't eat seafood anyway, but it's the best thing.
She can eat
ever.
bacon. So does Old Bay seasoning kind of go all the way down to Massachusetts, or does it stop in
It
Maryland?
does. I mean, I thought everybody knew about Old Bay because it was always in my spice cabinet. And but when I went to Baltimore, I realized it's amazingly huge there. And so I came back with one. They gave me a little can on my trip, and but yeah, everybody seasons with Old Bay.
You know what? I learned about that when we lived in South Africa. They used it.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
weird is
really?
that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that's the only place I'd ever heard about it was in South Africa. I wonder if that's going to go more because of the Portuguese and the Greek families we have lived there. I don't know. It's going
Not
to go
sure.
with
I
the
don't know.
fish. Is it a
Because
fish thing?
Portuguese, they like that salted cod,
And sardines. They brought the sardine thing, man.
The
You
sardine
know, all
thing
of
was big.
sardines.
Oh, really?
It
Yeah.
was huge.
We had huge sardine runs, and
Yeah.
that people ate sardines like
And
with
grunion.
condensed milk.
What's a grunion? Is a grunion a sardine or not?
I don't know, Nancy,
I
but
don't know what that
they
is.
ate sardines with condensed milk,
They
and I
had
don't
grunion
understand.
runs where people would go out at midnight and the fish were all kind of migrating into shore, and it's like they go catch them with nets.
But why condensed milk?
Funny.
It's still like what I don't understand is condensed milk with sardines. But
I
that's,
don't
you
think
know,
that either.
everybody eats what they
I
eat
don't eat
regionally.
sardines.
I know, so she's giving
Oh,
this
okay.
shenane. But that's the thing about where you go, like this food, like when you're saying in California, you miss the haddock, and I think food really puts a sense of place. And again, when you think about here's, 1776, stuff went down, and it went down in Boston. And you think about how all these cultures develop these dishes and how long the food history is. I think, we talk about parks and going in historic sites, but food, when a region keeps its food history, obviously innovates it,
That's
as you're
huge.
saying, then you can get Mediterranean around the corner, you can get Asian food, you can get all these different things, but it shows who's there now and, over the years. But I think that's the interesting thing, because your food comes from what's there, land and sea. And I think that's what's beautiful.
That's part of my book too. I travel.
Oh yes, your book, yeah.
I travel to all these destinations. I have 115, I think, destinations in my book of travel essays that connect each destination's indigenous ingredient or dish of that place, and I share a recipe. So there's about 88 recipes.
Wow.
So the readers can get a taste of travel, which was a column I had syndicated for over a decade. And then during the pandemic, I started to edit and update all of them, and I created this book. And it's like a Bible to me because I refer to it often for different recipes, or if somebody needs a recipe, I'll be like, look on page such and such, it's in there.
Cool.
But one of the things that connects me to Boston too, that I didn't get anywhere else, and everybody makes it differently, and when you find it, you love it, is Boston cream pie.
Yummy.
Have you ever had that?
No.
But well, I've had it where people say this is Boston cream pie, but it may or may not have been what real Boston cream pie was.
Well, it's got this chocolate frosting,
Yeah.
like what you get on. There's a donut that's similar, and it's got the cream
like
filling.
It's an eclair.
It's like an eclair.
Oh, a Boston eclair. Okay.
No, it's not a Boston eclair.
Come on now. Apparently, we need to go to Boston.
Similar.
You
do have to go to Boston, because some places make the best Boston cream pie. I love that, and I love the fried clam plates, and the baked haddock, and
so the Boston cream pie, is there chocolate involved?
Is there? Yes, there's chocolate.
They drizzle it on top.
Well, it's not a drizzle. It's more like like a ganache, right? So it's a fudgy, more like a fudgy topping that's caked on. But it depends on the recipe. I've had it served on Long Wharf in Boston. I've had it served in a jar, where it was like a deconstructed Boston cream pie, and it still had the taste, but it was all in there, and it was one of the best I've ever had.
Ooh.
It was at the Marriott. They had a restaurant here. I don't know if that restaurant is still there or not. There's a lot that's changed, and so where I am on the North Shore, I also grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, which is right.
She's a witch.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't eat the bread. Do not eat the bread in Salem. I'm just kidding. You could be a witch.
You never know.
No, I did grow up here. I went to Salem High School, and but there's what's relatively new. I mean, it was here when I lived here, but it just started up again, and it's the Salem Ferry, which you can take Boston is known for the terrible traffic, right? And you just never, I mean, you can pretty much tell it's at rush hour, but you just really never know when you're going to hit it. I can leave here at 6 o'clock and it'll take me an hour and a half to get in Boston, or I could leave here and it takes 25 minutes. So
Oh,
it,
wow.
it's better to take public transportation if you can. That's why I like to take the train, or you know,
Yeah.
I've taken the Salem ferry. So you go to Salem and you can take this ferry over to Long Wharf in Boston. And it is
Cool.
really cool to do that. And they have a bar service and it's just a fun
Yeah.
experience.
Cool.
And it drops you right at Long Wharf where there's a bunch of restaurants and you can, and that's the Seaport area. And so you can walk around there and there's a lot of new things there, and you know, down by, that's where the World Trade Center is, and you know, there's like, I think 2 or 3 legal seafoods as far as I know that are still there.
I just love
And
that name. That's funny.
Del Frisco Steakhouse is there. There's, you know, a lot of really good steakhouses in the Boston area too.
I wonder where that came in.
Valencia.
I mean, is there a lot of cattle ranching near there, or?
Oh, nope.
But there's a boat that brings it
They get
in.
the Wagyu beef, so it's from
Oh,
Japan.
yeah, yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting to us. So, I mean, because it when it's seaside, it's like this interesting thing, and then you have the big winter as well, which is, so is it very 4 seasons? Like when you have spring, is it so springy, or what's it like over 4 seasons?
Well, right now it is spring still, and it is cold today. I mean, I've been freezing all day. Monday, on Memorial Day, I was hanging out with a neighbor on her porch until 9 o'clock that night, and it was so beautifully warm out. And you
Wow.
know, it was the ocean breeze it was just really a summer night. And so we
Nice.
had a couple of days where it was warm and we could enjoy our decks, but then this week it's been cold, raw, and rainy again. So you know, I had to turn my heat back on, and I'm not happy about that. But then all of a sudden it'll just, sometimes you skip right over from winter. You think you're going into spring, but then it extends for a long time, and then boom, summer, hot and humid, you're right in it. And so coming back here mid-July last year, I was standing in front of my apartment waiting to get in, across from the ocean, the middle of the day, freezing. It was mid-July. It just happened to be one of those weird days on the ocean where
Whoa.
you're cold. And you know, there was a cool raw breeze, and you know, and then the rest of the time was just hot and humid, of course. And so you're getting into, it was really, really hot and humid last summer, my first summer back. And then the fall came and I was super excited about it. It's one of my favorite seasons. I couldn't wait to see the foliage, and I kept taking long drives to New Hampshire and just to see the foliage and to pick apples. I love Macintosh apples, so had to go apple picking. And then in November, it just started to get to the point where I had forgot how cold it gets. And so I ended up leaving and I went to Florida for a few months.
We were in Northeast Pennsylvania in November, and we've done, and we're gonna do it again. But
Yeah,
we
it's
did.
fun.
Hey, listen, I know you just came back from Wisconsin. We did that in winter once.
Oh,
I learned about snow shoveling, and Nancy made me toddies. I learned that you can have toddies in the morning, coffee, and
That's
you
what
can do
toddies
that
are
if you're
for.
snow shoveling. You
Of
are allowed
course.
a toddy.
You can do anything you want. So
No,
it's
it's
your
just
life.
it's a whole different thing. But I remember it was November, and because we pet sit as we travel, that's a COVID thing, and it's awesome. It's been the best thing we've
I
ever
know some
done.
people that have been doing that.
Yeah, it's
it's
really
awesome.
cool. And so we were pet sitting for a friend, and she's like, "Oh, I'm coming. Can you stay a night?" And I'm looking at the weather. I'm like, "No, we're going home now." And home was, we're on our way to we were going to Satellite Beach, Florida, and we get in. That's it. And the storm was coming. There was hail, there was a little bit of snow, there was wind, there was, I mean, everything. And it was fairly warmish fall, the fall colors. I mean, that you guys are all up in the Northeast, the fall colors are just beyond,
Amazing.
it's just beyond. I mean, I can't even,
It's amazing.
Talk about verklempt. It is. It is.
Yes.
After living in the desert and everything in Southern California and there's nothing like this. But so we get in the car and we stopped at a rest area. I mean, I thought like just we in the car. It's too cold. It's just you open that door and that wind and that ice wind. And it's like, no. And then we got in there, we went in the rest area
like,
thing and it was no, I'm like, I'm looking in the car. What can we pee in? Like, honestly, it's so cold. Then we managed to get ourselves out. We get in there, and that's where your face mask keeps your face warm. It's pretty cool.
Actually,
Yes. Did
It's
you
true.
learn that too?
Oh, yes. And then you get
And it
in there,
works.
and then you don't want to leave to go back to the car. You're
Yeah,
like, no,
because-
it's heated here. But we get to the car, and I'm like, I don't care what happens. We are getting to Florida. And then within hours to Florida, next thing you know, we're in short sleeve t-shirts filming alligators in a swamp. Like, what is this life?
What
You know,
just happened?
but that is the beauty of travel, right? And the beauty of travel writing, having these experiences. But there is a beauty to the winter, even Madison, Wisconsin in the
yeah.
winter.
If you-
There
if you-
was magic in there.
If you
And
have,
It'd be very pretty.
if you could
Yeah.
be in a warm place with a fireplace and look out and
Yes.
see it, and the snow is
Toddies.
crispy, and it's beautiful. When
It's
you
a
have to
very
go
different
out.
experience when you have to go
Yes.
to an office or
Yeah.
take your children to school,
Yeah, that's
Oh my
different.
gosh.
No, that's
You know,
not a good thing.
get the ice off your windshield.
Yeah,
and-
like
Dude, I
no.
watch people at 4 a.m. cleaning their
know.
car windshields off, and I'm going 4 a.m. I don't
Mhm.
even want to move. The dogs are sleeping on top of me, and I'm like, dogs do not move. This is, I want the warmth, but these
Mhm.
people are out there, and I mean, that's the beauty of travel again, where you see this happening and your respect.
Yes.
You do have to be hardcore to be able to do
I'm
that.
going to
do.
tell you something though. It's pretty funny what I've realized since I've moved back, right? After being away and coming back, and I look at people a little bit differently, like,
Mhm.
because I'm always curious, like, how do they survive here in the winter? And even my sister, I
But
watched
you
her,
grew up there.
I know, but I could never deal with the warm. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why travel writing really thrilled me, because I could escape the winter and go to the Caribbean and do all these trips through the winter to get a reprieve. So, you know, and when I was here during the first snowstorm, and you know, I don't have a garage for my car, which I did in California, but here I don't. And so I had to go clean off my car, and I put on my boots and I put on all my stuff and my hat. And it was really fun. It was light, fluffy snow, and I hadn't seen snow in a long time. So it was actually fun for me. But I just, you know, one time and then I was done, and it was getting
Yeah.
cold. But I've been watching people through the winter, and I have a friend who through the whole winter, I wouldn't even do this in the summer. The waters are so cold here on this ocean. And she was jumping in with a group every morning.
Oh, no way.
That's like Kramer and Seinfeld.
It's the polar ice dip.
Yeah.
They
No.
had this group of people that just did this every morning. And I think she's still
Wow.
doing it, but you know, the weather is a little bit warmer. People were in the ocean. They were at the beach on Monday.
Wow.
And but yeah, so I watch people and the way they describe it, like I have a very different place that I'm in compared to my sister, who's never lived beyond here. And she would say, "Oh, it's really nice out." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So their tolerance is different. And so, you know, New Englanders are hardy people. They
Yes.
really
Right.
are.
Absolutely.
I'm a wuss.
Well, see, that's the thing. The Wild West is
Mhm.
not that wild. Further
No,
west you go, the warmer you get, and then you get, oh, this is cool.
Well, it's
then
a
you have to
different
go.
kind of wild.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
because you got deserts, desert
You've got
and
fires, you've
rattlesnakes,
got snakes, you've got spiders and all these things.
scorpions, Nancy's best friend.
Yeah,
No.
I know. They seem to find me. So you don't have spiders?
We have spiders, but we
Sure.
don't have the kind that California has.
Yeah. It's,
They're
this is,
mean, they're mean over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this is why, like, it's so different. And that's, I think, so, you know, as we travel the country and we've done some places back and forth, different seasons, but it is mind blowing how diverse this country is, the beauty of it. I mean, it's really, to me, amazing to see. Just, I mean, we can't wait to get to where you are, because that's a whole other experience. But I feel like
So pretty here.
thank you for the tips on traffic, because I think get in, park your car at your hotel and take public transport, or fly in, or rail in maybe. And because it seems like we should just stay right in the heart of Boston and experience it from there.
Yeah, and you know, there are different ways to do it. So there, you know, you can take the train and you can take the subways, and you can also take, there's this new, I haven't taken it yet, but I'm supposed to be, and it's a seaplane that goes from Boston to New York, or it'll go to Boston to Provincetown on Cape Cod, right? And I'm supposed to be taking it to New York, and I can do a day trip or stay overnight. But yeah, there are all kinds of options. And I actually in March went to New York City, where it was cold, and I wore my mask because I wanted the warmth, and walking through the streets there. But yeah, it gets, I ended up taking the Flix bus because it's a clean bus, it's cheap. It was like $30 round trip or something like that, like 30 or $40. And it'll take you right into, you know, Midtown Manhattan. And it's easier to me than flying in. It's easier than taking the train, and it's way easier than driving and paying $60 to $80 a night to park your car in their garage, right? In the hotel.
Wow.
But so the Flix it's actually really easy. And so taking that, so now I like to try different ways to get around. And so the seaplane is another option, and I'm coordinating with the people there. It's called Tailwind. And so
That sounds like fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. So, but you have to tell them your weight.
Oh no.
Well,
Have you ever been
yeah,
on a plane?
they're like, okay, you sit on this side of the plane and you go sit way over there.
Oh
I know,
no, it's
they
like
have
balancing.
they have to divvy it up and
They
decide
have
what
to
to do.
balance.
When was the last? I stay at my weight as much as
Oh.
possible.
Yeah.
I don't look like, no, people have scales out and I go, no, it's the devil. No,
I know, really.
don't even look at me. It sits
That
there. It
happened
looks.
to me before, and it was on, you know, a flight to Lake Placid in New York State, and they some people couldn't go back because they could only fit so many, and it all depended on your weight. But there is another way to avoid traffic, like if you're going.
How do they do that? I'm sorry. You have to stay here. You're too heavy for the plane.
They had to take the next flight, so they had to wait an hour or so.
What?
Wow, that's a good tip, though. That's really good to know.
Wow.
Because it just depends on the luck of the draw of who comes in and who's
Also,
like in line.
The earlier you get there, the more, like if a bunch of heavy people get there first, do they get first?
Oh,
there's no rhyme or reason to how they selected, except I think people would volunteer and say, I'm with somebody, so we have to go, and they have to figure it out. It's their situation at the airport. But that's a small plane. And there's also a plane that you can take. And a friend of mine who came to visit me right after I moved here, she was visiting another friend in Nantucket. And she said, oh, can you come get me? It's only an hour and a half to the Cape. And I laughed hysterically. And I said, you know what? It is not. Because of the traffic in the summer, it's hours and then hours back. And you're in line. And it's terrible to drive to the Cape in the summer during high season. So she took a plane and came to the airport in Boston, and you can take a Cape Air plane, and it's a small little plane. And I don't think you have to tell your weight on that one. But I have taken that before.
No.
but there's all these options.
No. One time I was in the hospital and the doctor said, how much do you weigh? And I'm calculating in my head, what shall I say? And he goes, no. I'm like, oh, I think around so and so. And he goes, well, the bed told him my weight. I'm like, that's not fair. The bed told him. I was like, no, stop it. No.
Oh my gosh.
And it was totally different than what you thought. But I
Oh,
love
it
that
was
there's
way
all these
different.
options. And I think that's where we're going, and having public transport like buses, trains, and things like that. And, smaller planes. I've been hearing about like smaller plane groups really working and limos that are going more towards mass transit, like not just being for the la-di-da. Like,
Yes.
hey, you know what? There's a need here to, not, we don't need to build more roads. We need to think differently of the
Yes.
options we have
Mhm.
for, cities like Boston and LA. I mean, LA really has to change. I mean, New York. I mean, so I think it's great. The more options we have, the better. And it's better for the environment. I mean, even just on climate change, we have to look, and as travelers, we do need to look at what our footprint is going into a place. And if you can use their public transport, you're helping to fund that and keep it there.
Well,
But
it's
you're also
cheaper
kind of
than-
hanging with how the locals travel on a daily basis too, which I
Right.
think is good. When you're in a car by yourself, getting lost and annoying everybody because you're going, the attraction is over there. No, it's not. Yes, it is. You're annoying everybody.
No, right
So
then.
you're really the annoying tourist. But if you actually get in where the locals know, get on the bus, get on here, you're going to start to really understand the region and its culture better. So I think it's a good thing.
And there's actually a new train service that's starting in July, and I'm actually hoping to get on that to write a story. And it's called the Ethan Allen Express. And
Ooh, they're going to have good
um,
furnishings in there.
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
know,
say,
right?
that's the
Isn't that so
furniture
I want to
funny?
see the chairs, like
Yeah. They'll fold that into a
roll
bed.
top table desks,
Yeah.
roll top
That's
desks in
actually,
there.
it's not from Boston though, but you can take Boston to New York. You can take the train from,
Okay.
I've done that before, Boston to New York, and then from New York to Burlington, Vermont. So it's really going through different areas of Vermont from New York and ending in Burlington. So I've always wanted to go to Burlington, Vermont, and I just haven't been there. I've been to a lot of places in New England, and I love Kennebunkport, Maine, and Ogunquit and Kittery and all those places. Portsmouth, New Hampshire is one of my all-time favorite places in New Hampshire, and in Vermont, I used to go with my dad when I was little, and he just loved Vermont, and so they have the Trapp Family Lodge there and everything, but. Yeah, I've never been to Burlington, Vermont, or Bar Harbor, and these are places. There's so much to explore, and you can do a lot of this. Like one of my favorite places I used to visit a lot because I was with somebody who had a condo there, but it was Lincoln, New Hampshire. So I went back there. I said I have to go back to Lincoln, New Hampshire. It's an hour, 20-minute drive from here, and they have they had this gypsy cafe that I remembered loving, but I didn't have that condo access anymore, but there was this new developed resort called the Riverwalk at Loon Mountain. And so I went there in the fall, and it was beautiful. You hear a lot of babbling brooks, and this whole huge, it's an ownership hotel. So people own their units, and then they have a service that rents them out for them. And
Oh, wow.
and they're building they were in the process of building the second unit of condos. And so it's a place that was so low key for me, but it's really being built up. And most people like to go in, the snow season, but not me. I'd rather go in the summer.
See, there she is. She's like,
Unless
that's it. I
you-
want the summer.
Unless you ski, the snow season's kind of like, ooh.
Right,
If you're a
right.
skier, that's one thing, but
Or if you're a toddier, like I became.
toddies are good anywhere, even in the summer.
Yeah, it's a toddier thing. Well, I love this whole conversation of Boston too, and just travel in the Northeast, like where you are, because it seems like Boston is really central to getting out, not only experiencing the city, but it's like it's a central hub. So if you're flying
Oh, it
from
is.
overseas or coming in from, other parts of the country, it's kind of like go to Boston, experience that. And I think I can't wait, because even when we, on our tour, we did a lot in the West, and then suddenly we were in Pennsylvania and Maryland and everything, and the history, like, oh, wow, this is like a whole, like, you're in the South and here's Civil War history. And then, holy cow, this is like, we stayed in the a bed and breakfast that was built in the 1700s in Wisteria Inn in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, when was the last time we were in a bed and breakfast from the 1700s? We were in England or somewhere,
South
overseas.
Africa.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even know South Africa at 1700s, but I was like, that doesn't happen on the West. You know what I mean? So it's kind of this
And it's that
interesting
mix of old and
thing.
new.
Really, really cool. Yeah, because like that B&B, the Civil War, the Brandywine conflict or battle happened at the edge of their property. And now there's a road through the property, and there's a farm across the street that used to be part of the farmhouse. It's crazy.
How awesome.
But they keep that history, yet you can go downstairs and, use the Keurig. You know what I mean? It's like, here we are, and there's a jacuzzi tab, or what, you know what I mean? That kind of, you have internet in this 1700 house, like this old manor, and it's like amazing. So I think your area is just cool. We can't wait to explore right where you are. It's going to be awesome.
From somebody who just moved from wine country, right? So I'm in the wine industry. I review wines a lot. That's why I'm a member of IFTWA, right? And
cool.
And so one of the things I discovered that was new was this, and I don't know how I found it. I think it was on Facebook, and it was Commonwealth Wine School. And I'm like,
oh yeah, that you talked about that in the article.
Yeah, I fell in
cool.
love with this place. They had a Portugal wine masterclass for trade, and so they have public tastings, they have public classes, and they have all the certifications for, like I'm a WSET level 2, and that's the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. And so you can go through this certification program and learn everything, and then you test and you get certified. And it's a very difficult process after 2. So I'm going to stay at 2 for now. But I came back here, and I saw this trade tasting for Portuguese wines, and I went, and I'm like, what in the world? This is such a cool place. And it was a bunch of people gathered, and they had this guy who was the ambassador for Portugal wines, and we tasted all these different things, ended with port. It was a wonderful experience. Cool. I went back 2 weeks later, and they had an Abruzzo one, and they ended with French sweet wines. And so that was also very cool. And now they're doing a Long Island wine camp in July, and they're doing all these different things. So I'm like, I've kind of like been helping them out a little bit, because I really love what they're doing. And for somebody like me, there aren't too many places. There's a wine shop in Marblehead called Shuby's Marketplace. That's the only connection to wine I had in this area. Then there's I noticed what was new when I came back is Urban Grape, and that's in downtown Boston. And so there are different places popping up, but I love discovering the newness in Boston, and also connecting with the old, like the Freedom Trail. I remember, I started out in photography, and I remember photographing for the Paul Revere House for all of their artifacts and for their insurance purposes, right? I did all the studio photography work just to help them with that. And but I had never walked the Freedom Trail. I mean, it's kind of silly when I think about it. I used to, go to and they also have the duck boat. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So that's a boat. You'll see this duck boat roaming around the streets of Boston, and it looks like a boat with a duck head, like it looks in the shape of a duck. And what happens is it'll go around and tour people through Boston, and then it'll go into the water and become a boat.
Yeah.
So it's an old army
cool.
boat, and it's some kind of military vehicle.
It's an amphibious, whatever.
I think they have them in Canada. They have them in Canada in some areas, but no, I don't know about the duck head on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's just
so it's
fun.
called the Duck Tour. It's and that's pretty popular. You'll
funny.
see a lot of that in Boston.
Oh, I
That's
love
funny.
this. I love,
Yeah.
but you know, even the wine part of it, I mean, every state makes wine, right? So you got to think Massachusetts has wine, but to find it, like, it's kind of, I think, because you've got Harvard, you've got this college, you know, culture as well that keeps college towns. Nancy and I are always drawn to them because
Mhm.
there's this energy and
Active.
like, and I
They're
think
active.
because it's active, there's education, so there's this
There's a vibe.
creative thought process and
Mhm.
communicate. Like if you go to a wine bar, you're going to have a conversation that goes beyond the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial.
Oh yeah, so there's a new
you
City
sure?
See what
Bar
I mean?
winery.
Right.
I just discovered that. And I don't remember that being here when I lived here, but that's really cool. And it's right off of North Station. I can take the train and go there and not have to drive. And so City Winery, they have live entertainment every weekend, it seems, and really a nice headline act. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I mean, it just keeps growing and evolving. But yeah, there's different pockets for different things. There's a whole Chinatown. Like I had gone to Emerson College for my undergrad, and that was in the theater district. And so I got to go to a lot of the shows and readings, script readings with actors coming in as part of the school curriculum. And then
Wow.
I did go to a summer course, Harvard Summer School. So I was in Cambridge for a summer doing that. I just went to Newbury Street. So one of my favorite streets is Newbury Street. And it's a very nice street with lots of restaurants and outdoor cafes. It looks to me very Parisian. And I just went there a couple of weeks ago, meeting with actually some PR agency representing Maui, the Wailea properties, right? And we went to this place for lunch called Grand Tour, which I had never known. But I remember on a significant birthday I had almost 10 years ago. And a bunch of my friends and some of my family went, and I wanted to end the night. We did all my favorite things, got my favorite foods, fish and everything, went to the beach,
Haddock.
did all these different things, got haddock and went to Newbury Street. I wanted to have dinner outside. It had to be homemade pasta. So we went to Newbury Street and it was late. And it was probably, it was after 9, maybe closer to 10 or 11. And
Wow.
we looked and we saw all these bicyclists going down the street. And then we took a closer look and we realized they were all naked.
Oh my gosh. Bicycle races are coming your way.
Whoa.
The naked bicyclists. I
No
can't
way.
even
Okay.
believe that. Still, I can't believe that happened. I
I'm just
thought I
thinking
dreamed it.
about that. I
That
don't
has
know.
to be a dare.
Now we're going to be talking about this at wine time now, you know,
Yes, because I
naked
have visions.
cyclists. I know. I mean,
I
the
already
sea-
do
got
it.
visions.
no, don't. Now it's stuck there. Thank you for passing that on. Because it's
I'm wondering if it's
not going
like,
to stop.
this
Not
is like
gonna stop.
horseback riding,
I know,
the
but
right or the left, if you know what I'm
oh,
saying.
stop it.
Oh,
She's not going to. Did you have to start this?
Yes,
Charlene.
it was one of the most shocking moments
I bet.
of that whole day. And actually, since I've lived here, I think is looking out going, wait, what? And I
Oh.
mean, it was a
That's
horde
funny.
of bicyclists. It wasn't just a few. It was, you
Was
know,
it
at
all
least
male
50.
or was it male and female?
Mixed. It was mixed.
Mixed? Wow.
I guess it's
Somewhere,
something they do every
I'm just going
year.
to say some were enjoying it and some weren't.
And that happens,
Uh-oh.
that happened the end of June. So I wonder if I
Uh-oh.
go back there on my birthday again, if I'll see it again.
Oh, please report back. I'm following you on social
But
media.
actually, you know where I wanted to go on my birthday, and I already told my sister, I said, you know, another place that I have never been, and it's on Walden Pond.
Hmm.
So
That's right.
Thoreau, Little Women. I mean, there's like a lot of history there. So I said, I really just want to go to Walden Pond, just walk around, have a picnic. It's right near, you know, it's
Wow.
Concord and Lexington and this
Wow.
whole battle. It's there's a lot of history everywhere around here, but because I've never done that, it's like the Freedom Trail. I said, I have to go to Walden Pond.
It's so interesting
Hmm.
because I think sometimes you have to go away to come back. a lot of times,
With
especially
a
small,
fresh perspective.
when we
Mhm.
travel places, well, about like, CVBs and, PR and even chambers, even small towns, chambers of commerce. And I don't know how many times we've been to a place and we're like, well, that's really interesting. They go, you think that's interesting? Like, really? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have this over here or whatever. And I think that it just
Mhm.
becomes part of your backyard. So it's always there. And it's really interesting when you travel, like what we all find interesting. And I think
Mhm.
destinations themselves, they get used to what's happening. And it's changing. And I think well, the pandemic is still kind of here, so we can't say it's over, but a lot is going to shift from now. Like, I feel like we have to redo everything that's been covered over the last 10 years.
Yeah, because it's
Because,
different now.
like you're saying, restaurants come and go, hotels have changed, people got funding and
Mhm.
revamped things, some didn't get funding. So, and then people are like more into the outdoors because we realize we need to be outside and more fresh air. So I think it's gonna, the next 5 to 10 years, you're gonna see a lot of shift and change.
Mhm.
And yes, keep the history and the sense of place. And that's that balance of a destination, especially for Boston. The history is so heavy that keep the sense of place, but there make room for the new, because you
Right.
can't live in. I mean, do we really want to eat what they ate in the 1700s? Hell no.
Well,
Mutton.
you might. Just a sample to
No.
see.
No,
I mean, I personally
no.
don't want to, but
But they had rum. But
I'll do that.
they had rum
I'll
and
do
whiskey
it.
over, but that was because the water was
I
so
always think of
bad.
the
So,
pirates. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
being on the seaside here, we're
Mm.
known for the history of the pirates and the privateers,
Oh, we
especially
like
Rum
that.
Marblehead.
runners.
So,
That's
Yeah, the
exactly,
rum runners.
that's how I know Marblehead is just because of all the privateers. They prefer to
Right.
be called privateers.
well, yeah,
Yes.
those were the pirates that did it legally, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, and they have the Glover's Regiment, and they still shoot muskets on holidays. And I remember, because I
That's
spent
funny.
18 years living in Marblehead, and my son went to school there. And the first day of school, they would shoot the muskets.
Oh,
And
wow.
it would scare me. It's so loud. And I was
Mhm.
kayaking on 4th of July, I remember, and they were shooting the muskets.
Oh my
And
God,
the
that
echo
feeling.
over the water. It was really
It's like
jarring.
we're duck and cover, jump off your
I,
kayak,
I know,
right?
not in today's world, you don't do that, right?
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, there's all kinds of cool history in Marblehead, and even in Swampscott, there's a connection to Thomas Edison. In Salem, there's this restaurant. Oh my God, one of the best seafood. It's kind of a chain. I think there's 3, maybe 4 of them, called Turner's Seafood. Every time I go there, it is the best seafood. They get it shipped in from Boston twice in a day. So everything is super fresh.
Wow.
And the one that's in Salem is where the first telephone call was made. Um,
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
I forget the specifics. Was it made to another state, or was it the first? I can't remember the exact details now, but that was a really cool thing to see. And it was in this building that used to be a restaurant called the Lyceum. And upstairs is one of the most haunted places.
Cool.
Salem has lots of history, but now it's called Turner's Seafood.
Wow, you
Hmm.
guys have a lot going on over there. We can't
Yeah.
wait to get there. We can't. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been super fun.
Yeah.
We love these shows with IFTWA, everyone, the International Foodway and Travel Writers Association. And you can go to ifwtwa.org. How long have you been a member?
This is my first year.
Oh, well, cool.
wow.
So awesome.
Cool.
See?
I decided I wanted to get involved with an organization that was more wine centric. And so, I had been a member of a couple other associations, and I wanted to see what this one was about. And so I'm looking forward to hearing back about they have a lot of press trips now, but I mean, last year wasn't the ideal year for me to join, so I waited, just trying to navigate the pandemic
Mhm.
and figure out like
Sure.
coming back and what's not. And now I think travel is coming back with a vengeance. All kinds of trips are coming up now. I'm actually going to Europe in September, to Greece, to be a presenter in the first olive oil tourism conference that's happening
Wow.
there. And I'll be giving a presentation on, as a tourist expert on California olive oil experiences.
Oh, cool. Well, hey,
So
you're gonna-
how random is
that's-
that?
that's wild. You're going to go to Greece and showcase California, but there's good olive oil
Hey, that's
Well,
in
they'll
good.
have
California.
all the different countries will be representing the olive oil of their country. And I'm
Yeah.
representing USA and talking about the California
Right on.
olive oil tourism trail.
That's cool.
Well, no, but
Very
it's,
cool.
you know what? Olive oil tasting is cool because they infuse it with different things. And we
Mhm.
tasted olive oil from Queen Creek in Arizona. Oh my gosh. It was like, you know what? This is so,
Yum.
because I think we get so used to going to the grocery store and getting the regular olive oil, which is nothing wrong with that.
And there's a
But I'm
difference,
just
you
saying,
know, there's a
there's a
difference.
big
Some people
difference.
press them with the olives and some people infuse. So there's different ways of making those flavored oils. And
It's
I'm
just
learning
good
that.
for you. The more olive oil we have, the better. It's good for your skin. It's good for, everything.
Good for your
It's good for you.
hair. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's good for your pizza. It's all good.
It's good
good
on
for
your
your pasta.
salad.
Yeah, yeah. But you can't drink it as a cocktail. Maybe
Yeah.
someone will invent that. Everyone, keep up with Charlene. Go to her website. It's Spavolous, Spavalous, spavolous.com. And also for Boston, go to bostonusa.com. And you can read her article up right now on nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Boston. And also see it in the upcoming summer fall issue of Parks and Travel magazine. And of course, IFTWA, we're here every second Friday, every second Tuesday. We talk to destinations, every second Friday to writers. And again, their website is ifwtwa.org. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a blast.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lisa. I really, really appreciate the
That's
time.
fun.
And loved spending my Friday night with you.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.